assertion of partisan power in elections, and other woke corporations from Patagonia to Delta to MailChimp, as we've talked about, Coca-Cola, Merck, Facebook, Google, so on and so forth.
And so it goes.
And so, not only is it sort of center cut with respect to opportunities and requirements with state by state in terms of compare and contrast Georgia to other states and their election strictures. But if it's everything that they say it is, I'll tell you what, where is the constitutional challenge under the Voting Rights Act? Where's some legal action to undo this Jim Crow on steroids? The presentation of ID is tantamount to a poll tax, even though it's not, because none of these rules are being applied based on race. They're being applied equally under the law. Of course, these minor nuances don't get much airing, and everything is racism all the time. So what is one to do? For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by Christian Adams, president of the Public Interest Legal Foundation, former attorney at the Department of Justice in the voting section. Christian Adams, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Good to be here.
Well, what about that? What about just saying, oh, really? It's all these things? I mean, in addition to, putting up the compare and contrast table of Georgia's newly minted law versus, the rest of the 50 states. Hey, why aren't you in federal court prosecuting Georgia or trying to prosecute Georgia under the Voting Rights Act?
Well, that's a good question. They'll probably get around to that, whether or not the case has merit. But understand, this is part of a national propaganda effort to smear any effort to make our elections have more certainty. You're right. Georgia didn't do very much here. All they did is say, if you submit a mail ballot, remember we all rushed to mail ballots last year, just put down your voter number, your driver's license number. Just make sure the person sending in the ballot is who's really registered to vote. That's like the Jim Crow part of this law that has them in such a lunatic fringe rant about this law.
Yeah, but the left says, oh, we can't, not all of us have IDs and all this. And, my friend that's black was mortified that white people don't think that we don't know where the DMV is, or that we don't know how to get online and have access to a computer. I mean, it's so insulting.
Don't forget that every single demographic supports election integrity and voter ID. The polling data show that. White, black, Democrat, Republicans. What you have with all these woke corporations is a tiny little fringe group who has been conditioned to think any election structure whatsoever is Jim Crow, or as the president calls it, Jim Eagle. And so this is an out of the mainstream lunatic group who does not represent the vast majority of Americans.
Yeah, but they're crazy like foxes. I mean, if it wasn't the voter ID, they'd be harping even more than they are on this, providing water and food in line, like going to vote on election day is the tantamount to the Bataan Death March or something. I mean, it's the most insane thing. Like, people are dying of starvation and lack of water while trying to crawl their way to the polling booth. It's idiocy, but it's idiocy for a point, and you sort of got to it when you're talking about this as part of a national strategy. So they'll use the voting ID thing, and if that voting ID thing wasn't available, they'll use something else. It doesn't matter because it's Georgia and it's a state we got to own. That's their perspective.
That's exactly right. This is about scaring people and about lying to people about this phony civil rights threat. It's about making people go to the polls out of fear, not out of issues. It doesn't have any basis in reality. It's all about power. That's what they ultimately want. Look, Georgia's law is almost a joke. I mean, they expanded early voting. They did all sorts of other things. And these people simply do not want anything that might limit the ability to rig the election. If you have, it's not a question of whether or not you have photo ID. It's whether you have a voter ID number, meaning that the government gives you that when you register to vote. They don't even like registration to vote. Keep that in mind. They want it to be where you just walk up to the polls and vote, not announcing yourself ahead of time, not establishing your residency, just saying, I'm here to vote. That's what they want. Remember that. This is a drive toward this utopian voter system, and if you oppose it, you're Jim Crow. That is the entire formula for the rhetoric.
And they, the other thing this is, getting out front on it. So really bringing the big guns to wage war against Georgia to send a message to other states and other Republican-controlled state legislatures. Don't even think about it. Otherwise, you're going to lose business. We're going to target you, all that stuff.
Well, that's what they did to Texas. It was Georgia, then Texas. And the Texas government, the Republicans in the government, bit back and said, it's not going to work here. You guys can try your bullying tactics. Apparently, they're scared poodles in Georgia, but in Texas, they're not. But there's other states. There's Arizona is fixing problems with the election. North Carolina is looking at it, the Pennsylvania legislature. So all around the country, people are fixing failures from the last election. In other words, we're learning from it. How about that? We're learning to make things better. And they don't want things better. They like things to be chaotic and uncertain because they have more lawyers. They have more money for lawyers to litigate and change the results after the election. So they prefer the chaos of 2020 to the certainty of things like 16 and even 12, which were better run elections.
Well, do you think if we, continue with this mail-in ballots, continue with this COVID narrative scaring people, that we're going to have more mail-in ballots or just as many in the 2022 election?
Well, that's the whole design here, isn't it? That's exactly what they're trying to accomplish, is preserve the chaos of 2020 into the midterms so they don't lose the House, which they're about to do if we had a normal election. And mail-in ballots disenfranchise people. Let's make no mistake about it. The post office says that their goal is only 95% success, which is another way of saying 5% failure. 5% of the voters who vote by mail get disenfranchised because their ballot doesn't get there in time. People are voted behind closed doors where there's no transparency, sometimes by third parties. That's why they like mail ballots. It's not that it's somehow some fix for COVID. It allows them to play games with the system.
Are some of these state legislative bodies and governors, are they making a mistake in not being aggressive enough? I mean, as we're talking about with Georgia, it's relatively modest. You're going to take the hammering regardless. So why don't you do something that is, as necessary, that really does tighten it up to reduce fraud? And I don't know. I mean, all these things, 4 weeks of early voting, and these are relatively new additions to the voting landscape. Maybe tighten it up altogether, since you're going to take the flack no matter what you do.
That's exactly what Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' approach is. That's what the approach is in Texas, dare I say Arizona. These leaders, and this is an important message Democrats, and not necessarily Democrats, but these propagandists about voting need to understand. Gone are the days where Republicans shiver at accusations that they're trying to restrict voting. It doesn't work that way anymore because we realize it's a sham. There's no restriction of voting. It's not going to work. People care about having a clean election and are ignoring these lies that are being pushed by people like Stacey Abrams in Georgia, who lost the governor's race a couple years ago because she just lost, and she wants people to think that it was part of a conspiracy.
Yeah, I mean, the Republicans don't need to restrict the votes of minorities. They need to restrict the votes of suburban housewives with master's degrees. I mean, that's really, if you're going to go, I mean, I'm being facetious, of course. I don't want to restrict anybody's voting rights. Everybody should be equal before the law. But this whole idea, we're so afraid of the black vote. Actually, under Trump and at the state level and places like you just mentioned, Arizona, Texas, Florida, you have popular Republican governors that got significant percentage of the Latino vote. The black vote is growing. It's got a long way to go. But the desire is to get more and more minorities in the party, where the push is to get more and more minority support in the party, and we're seeing some progress there while we're seeing attrition in the suburbs. So, I mean, it doesn't even comport with the GOP's stated political strategy, electoral strategy.
Well, exactly right, and you're touching on a bigger issue, and that's political realignment that Trump began to initiate, where it's the elites versus the non-elites, where it's the Republicans are attracting the people who didn't go to college, who didn't get indoctrinated at Northwestern, who didn't subject themselves to the academy. And it's the Democrats that are beginning to rely on those people with master's degrees, the rich people. It's flipping the script from 30 years ago, or maybe I should say 20 years ago, where the Clinton coalition swung to the Republicans, where the blue-collar workers are now the base of the Republican Party, and the people who love the country and the people who hate the country and have master's degrees are Democrats.
You had to mention my alma mater and reduce the value of my degree yet again. It's been reduced enough since I got out. But Christian Adams, president of the Public Interest Legal Foundation, former attorney at the Department of Justice in the voting section. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
It makes you feel bad. It's just not fun. Every time you smile, you have to think about it. You have to be careful. You're self-conscious. You worry what people think about you.
You don't need to hide your smile anymore. Hi, I'm Dr. Jeff Weller, and I'll get your smile back. This is what we do at Weller Dental. There are a lot of ways to get that smile back. What do you need? Let me help. I can list all the services we do and talk about our 30 years of restoring smiles and our industry awards, but that's not about you and your smile. Hey, we're really good at cosmetic dentistry. Take the step. Contact us. We know it's hard, but you know what's really hard? Not having the confidence to smile. So let's do this. I have offices in Chicago and Hinsdale. Weller Dental. Google it. Or just go to wellerdental.com. We can do it. Let's get that smile back.
No judgment. Just a friend that wants to help you feel better about yourself. Weller Dental. wellerdental.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Boyd, here to tell you about an incredible cost-saving opportunity you should consider for your building, office, or facility. For 30 years, Boyd Electric has been a local 134 electrical contractor providing quality service and technology. We help businesses large and small reap the benefits of energy-efficient lighting products. Boyd Electric has retrofitted hotels, big box stores, hospitals, and car dealerships, and is a total solutions provider that can serve your needs anywhere in the country. With our no capital outlay shared savings program, you can get 100% financing with customer payments based on an agreed upon share of realized energy savings. Once the balance is paid off, you own the equipment and retain the energy savings. Our partnership with manufacturers and our association with ComEd's energy efficiency programs provides you access to products and programs designed specifically to make upgrading your lighting plan an affordable cost-saving option. Boyd Electric, the experience to retrofit your business with the finest LED alternatives. Contact me, Jim Boyd, at BoydElectric.com. That's BoydElectric.com.
If you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance your existing home, then you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Most listeners who secured an FHA loan after June of 2013 with a loan value greater than 90%, with a loan to value greater than 90%, will pay private mortgage insurance for the entire term of their loan. This is so important. I'm going to say it again. Most listeners who secured an FHA loan after June of 2013 with a loan-to-value greater than 90% will pay private mortgage insurance for the entire term of their loan. The only way for these listeners to remove private mortgage insurance is to either sell the home or refinance. Team Hochberg helped thousands of AM 560 listeners refinance out of their FHA loan into a conventional loan to eliminate private mortgage insurance, but they can't help you if you don't call 855-56-DAVID or visit 56david.com. That number again is 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Homesign Financial, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1124061.
Hi, my name is Lily. My mom and dad used to fight about money all the time. Then one day, I heard them talking about this guy, some uncle I never knew, called Uncle Sam. Well, they say this Uncle Sam guy wanted them to pay him like $1 gazillion, and they didn't have $1 gazillion. So they called this company they heard on the radio called the Tax Doctor. And the Tax Doctor worked with Uncle Sam's people. I think they're called the IRS. And they're able to work it out so my mom and dad didn't have to pay Uncle Sam very much money at all. So now mom and dad are happy, and I'm happy too. Thanks, Tax Doctor.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, call now and pay less. 800-391-8713. 800-391-8713. That's 800-391-8713.
NJ Diet offers all of their patients a scientific approach to weight loss with new technology using hair and saliva sampling to customize a weight loss program specifically for you. NJ Diet is one of the only weight loss companies in the country using this technology for weight loss success. NJ Diet is a hormone detoxification system that evaluates and targets each individual person's needs, then balances your hormones where the side effect is weight loss. NJ Diet's bioenergetic feedback technology allows